are about to get underway here at American Legion Mohawk Post 308 in Tulsa.
And James, there's no better way to start off a UWO event than with defiant Derek James.
You see Marvelous Mike Andrews making his way to the ring. His client, defiant Derek James, coming out of a local native here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, taking on his mentor, a little mentor versus student to start things off. Defiant Derek James has a very tough challenge up against him as he faces his own trainer, the brideless groom, Brandon Groom.
No, it's a tale as old as time, James Souther. Derek James and Brandon Groom, these two men know each other in and out, forward and backward, side to side. One thing's for certain, this one is going to be competitive.
It'll be interesting to see. Brandon Groom has taught Derek James everything he knows, but has Brandon Groom taught him everything that he truly knows? What are those little secrets that Brandon Groom withheld from Derek James, and will he be able to use those to gain the win tonight? Bristow's most eligible bachelor making his way to ringside, getting the hugs from the, one can only assume, the eligible bachelorettes. Brandon Groom taking his time, taking in this adulation from the Tulsa faithful. They love them some Brandon Groom, don't they, Walker?
Well, they most definitely do, but I have to correct you on one thing. He's not just the most eligible bachelor in Bristow, Oklahoma. He's the most eligible bachelor in the entire state of Oklahoma. This is Unified Wrestling Oklahoma after all, James.
Indeed, where all the forces unite. The brideless groom. Looks like he's going to have to keep looking a little further. It looks like that bride is not groomless, but he will have to keep on looking. But he's got a mighty tough challenge before he finds a bachelorette. He has got to get through the defiant one, and Marvelous Mike Andrews at ringside. Flowers rode the ceiling there a little bit, Walker, but they still found their intended target.
Potentially so. Potentially, Brandon Groom could have walked into this matchup tonight saying, I'm looking to find myself a bachelorette. What better way to impress the woman of Brandon Groom's dreams than to win a professional wrestling contest over a man the stature of Derek James. Derek James, a former UWO champion in his own right.
He held that championship for quite an impressive reign. And you know, that's got to be something that's in the back of his mind. He wants to regain that UWO championship. Derek James feels like he has been cheated at that New Year's Eve show where he lost the UWO title to our reigning defending champ, Christopher Morrison. Lest we forget, though, Derek James has that sure shot contract in his back pocket. He could pull that out at any time, Walker, and challenge our champion, Christopher Morrison.
Well, we're going to have to see if he's even able to make it through the brideless groom. You don't want to upset a man without a groom on his side, without a bride on his side. He actually has a groom.
He is the groom, sir. That is correct. Brideless, but perhaps not winless. That's the goal for Brandon Groom here in Tulsa.
There's a period of time in Brandon Groom's career where he was one of the most highly scouted professional athletes in the sport of professional wrestling, an FCW standout in Florida Championship Wrestling, a former WWE developmental territory, as you're aware.
Spent plenty of time underneath legendary minds like Tom Pritchard and Steve Kern learning his craft. You know, some of those tips and tricks have been passed on to Derek James. But as I said earlier, you know there's got to be those one or two things that Brandon Groom hasn't passed on. And maybe that's the key to victory for Groom tonight. What are those? I'm not quite sure. But you know Groom has got something up his sleeve.
I want to acknowledge right now the presence of one Marvelous Mike Andrews at ringside. Mike Andrews has definitely played a factor in the result of one Derek James matches in the past.
No doubt about it. Derek James had control of that side headlock. Now a hammerlock by Brandon Groom. But Mike Andrews has certainly been a factor in many of Derek James' matches. Many would argue he's the reason Derek James held on to the UWO title as long as he did. But nonetheless, having a manager on your side is just another tool in the arsenal for Derek James. He's a technician. At one point, we called him the teenage technician, now 21 years old. 6 years experience as a professional. Derek James, as well-rounded as he is, sometimes having somebody like Mike Andrews on the outside can greatly benefit your chances. Right now, it looks like Derek James doesn't need that, though. He's got a headlock there, or head scissors, excuse me. Brandon Groom floating over into the, looks like he's going for a modified version of a knee lock here.
Marvelous Mike Andrews has gone on record to state that he considers himself to be the mind behind the magic when it comes to defying Derek James.
Derek James certainly had a lot of success on his own alongside his tag team Tunnel Vision with Logan Knight, but certainly since Mike Andrews has come into play, into a cover now, only a 2 count though, Brandon Groom maneuvering Derek James's weight around. Since Marvelous Mike Andrews has come into the picture, though, things have certainly gone Derek James's way, as we mentioned, winning that UWO championship as well as other championships across the state. But that doesn't help you necessarily in a test of strength like this, trying to compete for that hold there, trying to drive the shoulder and elbow of Brandon Groom backwards, locking them up.
We've been talking a lot about the student versus teacher dynamic in this matchup, but I also want to acknowledge the age differential between these two. Talk about a 21-year-old Derek James versus a 43-year-old Brandon Groom, and you're going to have to see in this matchup if the higher age of Brandon Groom is going to be an experience advantage, if anything.
That's another aid, just about as long as Derek James has been alive. Brandon Groom has been around wrestling, whether it's amateur at the high school or college level, or then when he joined the professional ranks. Almost as much experience as Derek James has been alive. Derek trying to show off that he's got some experience there.
But James, the important part of that sentiment on the flip side is that Brandon Groom, for as long as Derek James has been alive, has also been taking copious amounts of punishment inside the ring.
Copious amounts of punishment. It adds up on your body. And Derek James is trying to find what is that weak spot on Brandon Groom. The man's built like a Greek god, but everyone has their weak link. What is Groom's weak link? That is what Derek James has to find in this contest, sending Groom off. Groom cartwheeling through, showing anything Derek James can do, Brandon Groom can do better.
It only makes sense, James. Of course, Derek James learned everything that he knows from Brandon Groom.
The power of Brandon Groom on full display. Dragging Derek James out of the corner. Derek Groom quickly back, trying to create that separation once again. Brandon Groom having none of it. Now he's out in Mike Andrews' face. Mike Andrews backing up, saying, I had no part of it. Leave me alone. It's a smart strategy if you're Mike Andrews. Entering the ring. His eye on Derek James as they lock up again.
Keep in mind, folks, no time limit applied to this matchup by the official Brent Wall. These two men truly can take as much time as they really want to for whatever point they're trying to prove here. Derek James, like we mentioned in the past, trying to showcase that he is capable of overcoming the man who brought him to the dance, that brought him to the game.
And it very well may take all night with 2 evenly matched competitors into the cover here. Only a 2 count for Derek James on Brandon Groom. Brandon Groom right back into the armbar, though. As I said, with experience like this, it may take all night for the slightest mistake to allow one of these two to capitalize and get the win into the cover here. Almost similar to a backslide there. Targeting that left knee of Derek James now. Derek James fighting back, trying to create separation. Groom not letting him have it, though. James out of the way, the big body splash in the corner. Turning the favor with a chop. Trying that double underhook. Groom got him. Belly-to-belly suplex overhead.
Reminiscent of that Greco-Roman styling that Brandon Groom has perfected throughout his career. Derek James didn't even see it coming.
I mentioned Groom's background as an amateur wrestler, starting through high school and college. Now a lot of those skills still applied, seeing some martial arts-like kicks here. Pro wrestling, truly the blending of styles. Brandon Groom putting that on full display. Now taking the cheers of this crowd and trying to convert them into energy to continue this battle. Just easily picking Derek James up onto his shoulders, Derek James fighting his way free. Brandon Groom's got him up in that military press, taking him on a show of the American Legion here. The crowd is going wild. Mohawk Post 308. Love them some Brandon Groom into a modified cover here. Very smart, putting all that weight on Derek James's shoulders.
It's almost like he was driving that knee directly into the pectoral muscle of Derek James. Every bit of weight you can place on those shoulders, it's going to lead you closer to a victory, James.
No doubt about it. Every inch of pressure could be what makes the difference. We're now with this, looks like a key lock perhaps, over the shoulder of Derek James. Derek James fighting three, trying to hit that stunner. Groom maintaining control. Really losing it after that second knee strike there. James subverting expectations there, going for that drop toe hold. Missing on the follow-up elbow, though.
Speaking of follow-up, Brandon Groom's going to have to find a way to make that happen, but doesn't seem like that's going to be anytime soon, James.
Not after an introduction of the ropes and the windpipe. All the air in the throat of Brandon Groom driven out. Looks like Derek James might have him, but he's not willing to pin him. You have to put your weight on the man to pin him, Derek. I know you're confident. I know you feel like you have Brandon Groom beat, but now is not the time for showboating.
When you've been to the mountaintop like Derek James has, when you've experienced the glory that Derek James has, it's only right to want to show off a little bit, but you do have to focus on the victory, James.
Focusing on the victory is what Derek James is doing. A big single leg drop kick there, seeing Groom to the outside. He's got to try to recover. See Derek James catching his breath, settling down, finding his rhythm. The game is in his hands now. Mike Andrews trying to keep Derek focused, keep him on goal. Catch your breath while you can, but get right back on top of Groom. And that is what we're seeing now. A bit of King of the Mountain being played by Derek James.
It's almost like Derek James is completely okay with the idea of walking away with a count-out victory.
Nothing on the line here, no championships. That sure shot opportunity isn't up. Derek James sitting down into that pin attempt. Groom went for a sunset flip. Derek James just sat down and started raining punches down on the head of Brandon Groom.
Well, a very rare misstep from Brandon Groom led to the advantage being taken by Derek James. That's just the mindset that this young kid has.
Derek James always learning. We say Brandon Groom, his main trainer, of course. But Derek James has spent years now traveling all across the U.S., learning from as many different sources as he can. So who knows, perhaps Derek James has gathered a skill set that allows him to defeat Brandon Groom.
There's potential for anything here tonight, but we have never seen a more focused and determined, defiant Derek James throughout his entire time here at Unified Wrestling Oklahoma. I doubt that changes anytime soon.
Got him hooked, Walker. Oh, into a small package. Only a 2 count for Brandon Groom, showing that resourcefulness, though. James right back on the attack, though. Pack of dogs. He just stays on top of Brandon Groom. He's going for that military press once again. Derek James bringing him into a small package. Only a 2 count, though. Going for a backslide attempt. Reversed into a DDT by Derek James. Brandon Groom is in trouble. Into the cover. Only 2. You see Mike Andrews getting frustrated, Derek James getting frustrated. Walker, what does Derek have to do to keep those nerves at bay in a moment like this?
Exactly what he's doing right now. Derek James doesn't have any nerves in the situation he's in right now because he's on the offensive. He's on the attack.
attack, it's easy to keep things going in your favor. Derek James slowing the pace down now, acting like an anaconda, using those legs to try to choke the life out of Brandon Groom. Trying to fight his way out. Leg scissors being applied by Derek James.
And this just goes to show you that even some of the best in the state of Oklahoma are going to struggle whenever they step into the ring with a man like Derek James. But wait a minute.
Shifting his weight over there, hitting Derek James only for a 2 count though. Derek James going for that Samoan drop. Groom sends him up. Big scoop slam by the brideless Groom. Brandon Groom, he's got to stay on top of Derek James, though. He's been feeling his wrath for the majority of this contest. Can Brandon Groom fire up? That's what we're seeing. The straps are coming down.
Groom can't start looking for wedding venues too soon. He's got to stay on top of Derek James here. Oh!
Big discus lariat turns him inside out. Now that right hand sealed with a kiss, signed, sealed, delivered. Derek James, it's yours. Now corner to corner by Brandon Groom goes Derek James. Out, tilt-a-whirl, backbreaker. James's spine has been realigned courtesy of the brideless Groom. Brandon Groom got in mind here. Double chicken wing. Or at least it looks like that's what he's going for.
Never know what Brandon Groom is going for. Highly innovative. What are we seeing here?
The fans at the American Legion are counting along here. The beats of Brandon Groom rain down. Floating over. He caught Derek James. Once again, that spine and back of Derek James have got to be feeling the pain after a combination like that. Groom into the cover, 2, and only 2 for the brideless Groom. Brandon Groom has got to stay on top of Derek, though. This is not the moment to try to catch your breath, Walker.
It's definitely not the moment. Groom has to keep the momentum running, has to keep the engine firing on all cylinders.
James trying to cause a sputter in that engine. Brandon Groom having none of it, up and over. James, though, taking that arm across the top rope. Now he's got it in between the middle. Trying to separate the shoulder of Brandon Groom, perhaps. We have seen the target. James up on that middle rope, diving out with a knee to that same shoulder. Gotta watch the shoulder now. That target has been placed by Derek James. The shoulder and neck of Brandon Groom.
It's a very interesting concept. Derek James very well could have knocked out Brandon Groom with that shot and woke him up by placing him in the submission hold. Nevertheless, Derek James still has a lot further to go if he wants to put Groom down.
Ice-like grip applied around the throat. You see Groom trying to fight anything into a cover here. That is what Groom has been doing his best work right here, when he finds ways to shift his weight and create a pinning predicament for Derek James. Derek James now with a single leg crab. Groom trying to grab that ankle, possibly pick it and roll through. Might be his only escape, but you see Derek James really wrenching on that ankle now. The ankle, the knee, the entire lower leg of Brandon Groom has to be in pain. Transitioning into an STF, but he got caught during the transition, did Derek James.
I don't think that was too smart of a move for Derek James. He had Brandon Groom exactly where he wanted him, but wait, look at this.
The ultimate game of leverage being played within those 3 ropes. Each leveraging each other's body weight into position. Off the ropes now. Groom's got him up. And down goes Derek James. Big spin outside slam by Brandon Groom. Into the cover now. Took a moment to celebrate. And that might have cost him there. Only a 2.
We're watching Brandon Groom come out here, and he's having a lot of fun here tonight, and I'm happy that he's enjoying himself, James. At a certain point, you have to start thinking more about your win-loss record here in UWO, especially if you want to be a champion in UWO the way Derek James is ranked.
And what beating a former UWO champion would mean for the record of Brandon Groom. It would be phenomenal, and for Derek James, it would be a hell of a way to solidify yourself working back up the rankings. But somebody has got to pick up the victory here. Showboating will only get you so far. It comes down to wins and losses when who's going to hit that pay window. Big spinning back fist there from Brandon Groom. James trying to damage that hand, that big powerful left hand. Going for the enziguri and missed. Did Derek James. Brandon Groom going for a waist lock there. Going for a gut wrench suplex. Spin out power bomb. Only 2 for Brandon Groom. How close can you get without sealing the deal? That has got to be what Brandon Groom is asking himself right now, Walker.
Well, I think there's a reason that both of these men are off their feet at this very point in the matchup. Brandon Groom and Derek James have given it all. They're putting it all on the line here tonight. The question still remains, who will walk away the victor? Our opening contest here at UWO Parade of Champions.
Things are just getting started. We have 2 huge Crow Cup matches coming up. We've got Team Red James versus the Team Canadian Red Devil, excuse me. And Derek James has a rolling armbar now on Brandon Groom. Brandon Groom's got those hands locked together, though. Derek James can't get full extension.
I think that extension's finally been found, or at least it's very close.
It was temporarily reached. Groom managed to get his fingers back locked together. Rolling back through into another pinning combination. 1, 2. Only 2 for Brandon Groom.
We've seen a highly technical contest. Could this be it right here?
Back bridge. 1, 2. Only 2 with the natural bridge by Brandon Groom, showing off that core strength.
Unnatural athleticism.
2 count there on the backslide. The 2 counts just keep coming.
But eventually they have to come to an end.
Just a matter of time. Derek James missing that body splash. Float over into the cradle there. 2 count for Groom. Spinning forearm by Derek James. That made contact. You see Groom, he registered it. He knew it was there. It may or may not have dimmed the lights just a little bit. Now he's trying to find Derek James in the dark. Lit up with those shots. Big chops in the corner. Groom going up. Excuse me, Derek James going up. Back and forth in the corner. Derek James fighting to stay alive on that middle rope. Groom trying to prevent whatever aerial offense Derek James has in mind.
Groom is trying to carve a hole into the chest of Derek James here.
Derek James might be suffering from some pectus excavatum after this one. Groom's got him up, electric chair. Derek James rolls through though into the cover. And 2 count. Groom gets 2 of his own with the reversal. These 2 know each other in and out, Stuart.
They definitely do, but Derek James couldn't have expected this one. Wait, Marvelous Mike Andrews trying to find some involvement here.
He was trying to find those feet of Brandon Groom. He did allow Derek James to get a sunset flip. And Groom, stacking his own body on top of Derek James, has found a way to get the win. Your winner via pinfall, Brandon Groom.